Let's produce and consume our first Kafka protocol messages to our Pulsar cluster. Here I'm going to start in the UI where we have some sample Kafka code for you to get started. If I click over here on Kafka clients, I'll stay in the code libraries column for now. We'll be using the other columns later here, the other tabs. I'm going to use the Java code here, and I'm going to select the service account, the non-admin service account that we created during the admin video. That service account is KOP service account, and it has produce and consume permissions as we had added previously on our tenant and namespace. I've already downloaded the OAuth 2 key here. You can download it and move it to a location. I put it in a specific folder on my desktop, which I'll reference in my code. And then here we're going to need to install the client libraries. Let me go ahead and copy these, and then I'll head over to IntelliJ. Here in IntelliJ, I'm just going to add those into my POM file. I'm going to make a new block for dependencies. And we'll paste that right in. Of course, I'll go ahead and right-click on pom.xml and reload my project, and they should start downloading. Next, I'll click next on schema registry. We're not going to use the schema registry yet. We'll use that a bit later. And then for produce and consume, here's our sample code. Select the tenant and namespace you'd like to use. I created a new tenant called KOP that we're going to use throughout the series of videos. And then the namespace I created was KOP namespace. This is the namespace that has produce and consume permissions for my service account. I haven't created any topics in here yet. You can either create one here and it will auto-populate it in your code, or of course you could just edit the code once we copy it out, which is what I'm going to do. We'll come back here a little bit later to consume messages, but let me go ahead and click copy here for this produce messages code. Now that we're back here in IntelliJ, I'm going to go ahead and right-click on org.example, say new Java class. You may not have noticed the name of the Java class that was specified in the UI, but it was SN Cloud OAuth 2 producer. I'm just going to keep it simple and use the same one, but of course you could make whatever class name you wanted. I'm going to go ahead and paste in that code that I copied out of the UI, and then we'll make a few changes to make it work with our system where I've specified my topic, namespace, all that kind of stuff. The few changes you'll need to make then, the server URL is already pre-populated as well as the audience, but the key path here you'll need to specify, and that's that OAuth 2 key that you downloaded for your service account. I've placed it on my desktop in a folder called SN Cloud Credential, and then here's the JSON file. Now, sometimes you might use file three forward slashes at the beginning, like that. I'm going to leave it with just the forward slash here because this key path is also used down here where we add in the file : // This works just fine when using the Kafka client. So it's specified in two places. Now, the only other thing I believe that we're going to need to change is the your topic. Let's just say my first Kafka client. And let me go ahead and right-click this, and we'll see if we can go ahead and publish these messages. And we get a result back that says send hello to, and then it has the location where we sent it. And of course, this is the actual creation of the message and sending of it, and then this is us printing that out to the UI or to the terminal here. Next, let's go ahead and show you how we can use our consumer. So here we are back in the UI. I refreshed the page and then dug down through these series of steps again. So my topic now has populated, so it'll be pre-populated in my consume messages. I don't have any subscriptions yet, so again, you could either specify that here or wait until you got over to IntelliJ and you could manually put it in. But I'm going to copy this consume messages code. Here back in IntelliJ, I'm going to go ahead and create my new class, and we'll call this SN Cloud OAuth 2 Consumer. Go ahead and paste that consumer code in that we had. First thing I'll have to do is to update that file path again. Let me go back to producer and grab that file path. We know this one worked. So I'll go ahead and paste that in here. Since I did specify the topic name, it's already pre-populated here for me, but what's not populated is the name of the subscription, and I'll have to edit that here. So I'm going to call that my first consumer. And from here, we can go ahead and execute this code, and it's going to try and read that first message that we published with our producer. As the Kafka consumer starts up, it may say running a few times, but eventually we will get that record. In the future, when you're running this, if you want it to continue to run, you can always set this running equals false. Comment that out so it will continually run. And then after it starts up for the first time, after that consumer starts up, you'll see that when you produce messages, they very quickly get consumed by the Kafka consumer going through our Pulsar topic. Heading back over to our UI, we can always go to our tenant and namespace. So that was KOP namespace. If I go into topics, you'll see that the My First Kafka Client topic got created. However, what you won't see here is the subscription for my Kafka consumer. The only thing that's going to show up in the UI right now are the Pulsar consumers. We'll show a little bit later how you can actually see your consumer group for Kafka as well as the backlog using the CLIs. So again, that's in a separate video. Also, because the subscriptions for Pulsar and the consumer groups for Kafka are separate, you can actually use the same name for both. I'm not recommending you do that, but just so you're aware that even if you use the same subscription name for both a Kafka consumer group and a Pulsar consumer, they're separate, so both will still get all messages. We also haven't talked about message retention at this point and how having a Kafka consumer group affects message retention. That will also be for a separate video.